Heyo everybody, Haku here for just like a quick update video or something. I don't know, hopefully I'll keep it quick, but you all know that I like to ramble about stuff. But I just wanted to take some time with the new year coming up to talk to you, and everything. I feel like I used to do videos where I could just talk to you and keep you updated on stuff going on pretty often with like the monthly update things I used to do, or even with the Haku and everything. So hopefully more of that stuff will be able to be done in the future. But as for right now, I just wanted to talk about some of the stuff coming in the future. I guess, I haven't really prepared any notes or anything for this, and, it's always a situation where you're thinking about all these things that you want to say ahead of time, and then after you record the video, you're like, oh, I forgot a couple of those things. But I'll try to maybe talk about some Tower of God stuff first, then talk about the reviews that are going to be coming, and then I'll maybe talk about thumbnails and stuff like that. Maybe stick to 3 points like that, trying to remind myself of everything right here. But first off, talking about Tower of God stuff, there is still a ton of stuff coming. The hiatus is going to last a while longer, which I'm okay with so long as CU is healthy and is able to really focus on the series and do his best work. So yeah, I don't really care that much about hiatuses. I'm of the opinion of whether it's a show, a comic, a video game, anything, I can be patient and wait for it if it's going to be at its best. And with CU particularly, again, following the series for years and years now and reading the blog posts for years and years, the man needs a break. I've always been in the camp, and I've said it a ton in my videos, that I would have really liked for him to take like an Oda One Piece schedule, just take a week off every 2 or 3 weeks, but so that we could avoid huge hiatuses. But it is what it is. I just hope the best for CU and the best for Tower of God. But yeah, there's a ton of videos still coming. I know that I haven't done Tower of God stuff in a while. I feel like that's just because generally I haven't been doing stuff much in a while. I've been super, super busy outside of YouTube, and that's kind of screwed me. I just really feel like I was behind on stuff and struggling to keep up with stuff before we went on Tower of God hiatus, but at least the reactions were something that I'm like, okay, I can just schedule it and I can do this every week, and if I at least do this every week, then I'm at least doing something weekly. So not having that just to keep me on a schedule with that has been just losing another thing helping me to continue to make stuff on a decent schedule. But yeah, I want to review the chapters I've missed. I have a bunch of discussions and theories and stuff that I want to do. It's all just about finding time to do them, like with anything else on the channel. But this is kind of bleeding into my review section of what I wanted to talk about here. Generally, I'm just going to be trying to do, my goal for this year is to try to do at least one video a day. I used to do like 2 to 4 videos a day, and I missed that so much, and I've struggled for like a year now, being busy outside of YouTube, just trying to figure out how can I get back to that? How can I do that again? How can I go back to making like 2 to 4 videos a day? Because there's so many things I want to do and so many things that I want to talk about. So I'm just going to be trying even harder. I'm going to try even harder. I'm going to, again, hope for at least one video a day. That's something I really want to do. So yeah, going to be fighting for that. Going into talking about reviews, before I do that though, actually. So yeah, more Tower of God stuff is coming, but it's one of those things where as much as I do love Tower of God, and as when it comes back, we're going to be back to reviews and reactions every single week. And there are a bunch of things I want to do before it comes back from hiatus, but a lot of the stuff that I want to do takes like hours and hours of research and note-taking, so it is taking me a bit longer on the long-term stuff, and when I think about Tower of God, I always go to work on that instead of just chapter reviews that I've missed. So because of that, that's why you don't see the chapter reviews as often, because I'm working on the other stuff, but you will be getting a lot more Tower of God. Like, I even did the, it wasn't that long ago, at least it doesn't feel like it was, that I did the Tower of God tier list. So stuff like that and longer term videos to fill out until the hiatus. I'd like to get back to as much as possible. Another reason why I took a week or two where I was like, I don't know about Tower of God stuff right now, was because of all the Cumso stuff that was going on. It seems like that's kind of getting settled at the moment. Webtoon seems to be like handling that super well, which is something I'm glad for because it was affecting a lot of really, really good creators like Milios or Sunwoo I know were affected. I'm not sure if Naya was affected or not, but if so, definitely Naya's a really, really great Tower of God creator. So at least, in my opinion, was always, who the fuck is Cumso? Because like, I do think they had a partnership to distribute stuff with Webtoons, but even so, like, they had even okay, if you're doing a reaction and you're showing the panels, this was something that I talked about a lot before I started showing panels. It's one of those things where it's a very arguable line whether that's fair use or stuff, but Dr. Bonehead was allowed, and I feel like that sort of precipitated to other people being like, well, I guess we're allowed to. It seems like they're encouraging it because they did start making deals with people and stuff, which I think is really good. But it's like, when it comes to fair use, it's a free resource, sort of. Um, so you can see the webtoon free on Webtoons, but it's questionable whether it's fair use because you are showing the entirety of the thing. But on the other hand, you're also not just showing it, you're going to be talking over it. You're going to be giving your own reaction and all that. Your face is probably going to take up a good portion of the screen. So it's one of those things where it's arguable whether they are or aren't allowed to strike you on that. But you should probably err on the side of caution. But some of the stuff they were striking were discussions, things that they, like, even if they did have some rights, they had no rights to be getting rid of that stuff. So it's one of those things where they were clearly in the wrong. But yeah, it seems like most of that's been handled. I think the best video on it was Dr. Bonehead's. It was amazing and said pretty much everything, so I was like, I was planning to talk about this, but there's not really a point. I'd rather just direct you to his video because it is pretty comprehensive. But that's the thing with Tower of God being on hiatus. It doesn't mean that Tower of God content has to end because we still have really creative stuff like the fan dub and all of Dr. Bonehead's videos. Nighty Hemmings has been killing it, and even channels during this hiatus have been building newer channels like Milios. Tower of God has been a big part of his channel building. Of course, he does a bunch of other stuff too that's great, but that's been a big part of it. Or Sunwoo already had a pretty established channel from anime reactions, but the Tower of God stuff certainly did not hurt. So there's stuff like that. But yeah, I would say there's a lot more Tower of God content coming from a lot more people, myself included. So keep looking for that. To talk about how I'm going to do reviews now, I'm sure you've seen in my more recent reviews that I've kind of stopped reviewing stuff episode by episode and started doing like a core at a time or a season at a time or an arc at a time. And I feel like that's sort of the better way to do things for multiple reasons, and two big ones that I can think of. First and foremost, sometimes when you're reviewing something week to week, episode to episode, or chapter to chapter even, it's hard to see the forest for the trees. You're so focused on this one part of the story that you're getting to see that week that you can be too overly critical, or maybe it just skews your judgment, where you can really like something, but maybe it's part of a greater whole that it's like, once you go back and marathon that arc or whatever, you're like, oh, that actually wasn't as good. I was just caught up in the weekly hype, or more likely, you're too critical of it because you don't get to see where it's heading. You don't get the, you don't get hindsight. You don't get to look back at it. Which is something that I talked about with Fire Force, where when I was reviewing the first few episodes week to week, I did think it was good, but had a ton of problems, and that's sort of why I dropped it for a while. But then going back to it, I think it's really great, and it's hard to see kind of where it's going when you're just looking at it week to week. And that's something you kind of need. So one of the big reasons is I think the quality of my thoughts in the videos is much better when I'm looking at something in a bit of a larger picture rather than just episode to episode. But another big reason is because look at this anime season. It's stacked. There's a bunch of new anime I want to watch. Plus, there's second seasons for a bunch of things I watched and reviewed. The Promised Neverland, Beastars. What was another one? Tensei Shitara Slime Dataken. So there's a bunch of stuff that Yuru Camp I watched the first season of, and I think its second season is going now. So there's a bunch of stuff this season that I want to watch, and if I were to do episodic reviews, I could do like 2-3 series maybe, because that's 2 to 3 videos every single week. Whereas instead, right now I can do season reviews on stuff that I've watched recently, and then once this season of all this stuff ends, I can do a season review of Beastar Season 2, a season review of Tensei Shitara Slime Dataken, and all of that. And it makes it so instead of doing 3 series and having to do like 3 videos a week, I could do all of these series. I could do 12 series, 1 series a week that happened this season that I can just review in 1 video a week next season. So it's sort of like that, where it allows me to cover more, and it allows what I cover, I think, to be better videos when I'm reviewing it more as a whole and less as just a single episode. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about thumbnails. I haven't had thumbnails in like a month or 2, and that's because I just straight up couldn't afford Photoshop anymore. Like, doing YouTube has monetarily definitely not paid off. I put way more into it than anything I get out of it. But I do it because I love it, and because I want to share all this with all of you, and all of you have been like great and amazing to me. So yeah, thumbnails will be back either A, when I can afford Photoshop again, or B, I've been trying to work to figure out how to make decent ones on GIMP, but though GIMP has a lot of really cool stuff for making art and making various different graphic design stuff, making thumbnails is not as intuitive. Like, there are a lot of options and a lot of things you can do for GIMP, and it's free, but at the same time, though there are a lot of options and things you can do, and though it's amazing that it's free, there are a lot of parts of it that are way, way, way less user-friendly, and some things that are just more difficult or time-consuming to do. So thumbnails will be returning as soon as I can possibly have them return. So yeah, that's just straight up the answer. Yeah, anything else I wanted to mention? No? It's only been 12 minutes, so I think that's good. I did want to keep this short, but I didn't trust myself. I was like, this is going to end up being super long. I got to record. I want to record 2 unboxings after this, a couple read-throughs for, or live reactions for Elf-Sama Yasuharanai or Manmusu. And like I said, I'm just going to be trying to do at least 1 video a day, trying to do a lot more, trying to get myself back to where I used to be. And I don't know, it's been difficult. I don't know what it is, but I don't know if it's been because I've been busy or stressed out outside of YouTube. I don't know. It's just been one of these things where for over a year now, I've just really, really struggled to make things. And I think most of that has to do with stuff outside of YouTube and just being super busy. But I desperately want to find a way to go back to how things used to be. Or at least, like, not necessarily the way things used to be, but to evolve and to grow and be better. But being better would be more similar to, like, 2017, 2018 than it would be to late 2019 or 2020. So yeah, hopefully you'll be seeing a lot more and better out of me. Like I said, the live reactions, the read-throughs, all of that stuff is still certainly definitely coming. More Tower of God stuff is coming, more discussions, more tier lists, things like that, more list videos in general. I've always wanted to do more of these things. And I think it'll be easier on me too, now that I'm doing reviews differently. Instead of saying, hey, for the next 12 weeks, I'm going to be locked into this series, making a video every single week, I can just do reviews on seasons of things. Like I have said in the polls that you've seen so far, I plan to rewatch Naruto. I'm already doing that on my own, so I'm just gonna review it here and there as I rewatch. Reviewing Fire Force, reviewing a bunch of other shows that I've read, or shows that I've read, shows that I've watched, and manga that I've read. And I've also been trying to catch up on some manga in Jump so I can do weekly streams reacting to Jump series. And also, for those of you wondering about Magical Girl Raising Project and where it's been for the past 2 weeks, when I recorded my last video, I loved it because the chapter was amazing, but at the same time I was like, I don't feel like I'm doing how great this chapter is justice because I'm forgetting things. So in order to prevent me from forgetting things, I've been going back through and rereading the parts of Queens that I've read so far. So once I've reread the parts of Queens I've read so far, I'll continue with Magical Girl Raising Project. I just wanted to make sure that I remembered everything so that I could really do the series justice because it's really, really good. And I guess that's it. I suppose that is all for now. Thank you so, so much for watching. Again, if you want to talk to me anywhere, I always try to answer everyone as best I can, as often as I can, right here on YouTube in the comments, or on Twitter, or on Discord. If you want a link, it's free and open for anyone. Just ask and I can give you a link to it. If you want to help support the channel on Patreon to help me continue to make videos, as always, it's patreon.com/Haku of the Tubes, or a link will be in the description. And seriously, thank you so much for everybody who's already been a patron. It really, really, really does help to at least help me to keep making things. But like I said, I really, really want to step things up again. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.